I learned Godot. Well, really I should say I began my journey in Godot. This video is meant for beginner Godot users as a sort of guide, and if you're not a beginner, I at least hope you're gonna be entertained by this story. Well, that's enough McGapper, let's cut to the show. My journey began by Brackeys coming back from retirement and his Godot tutorial popping up on my feed, and at that moment I realized I was a month late. But as a wise guy once said, Godot is kinda skibbity. It's 2099 Spider-Man. I followed the tutorial and realized Godot is a perfect mix of Unity and GameMaker Studio. It has the right amount of complexity to make a good game, and it also has simplicity to not make me rage quit. Also, it doesn't charge me $21 per mouse click. Godot is heavily glazed and for the right reasons. It's open sourced, meaning it is managed by people who use Godot. It's good because if I criticize Godot now, whenever you guys are watching this, it has already been fixed. Godot is an all-purpose engine. It is, put simply, good at everything. Although to be fair, I only used the 2D version and at this time just made a platformer. GD script is stupidly easy. It's a mix of Python and P5.js. All you have to do to move something up is add to its Y position or add an impulse/force. It is a game engine perfectly how I imagined it. I highly recommend it. I can see how Godot can falter if you want to make a AAA professional company style game. It's too simple, and that's the hard part of game engines. If you make it too simple to use, you can't make good games. If you make it complicated, no one's gonna learn how to use it. But the docs and tutorials are so well documented that if you really spend some time, I think you could make a professional game. Back to my progress, I started the tutorial by learning that nodes are everything. A scene is basically a giant node with a bunch of nodes in it. A scene can be anything from your coin to your player to your level 1 to your entire game. I imported assets and created my player. Sticking to the node logic, I created a character body 2D scene. A character body 2D is basically a thingy specialized to get controlled by script. After that, you add your sprite because an empty player that you can't see isn't really going to make gameplay fun. You add a collision shape 2D and that's all you need for a basic player. After that, I learned about tile maps. Simply put, tile maps are pixel arts for the level. You start out with a bunch of tiles, which are like pixels, but they're already drawn on. For example, a grass tile. And then you have a grid to put it on. You select the tile and paint away. Then I moved on to moving platforms. Instead of moving them through code, Brackeys intended the tutorial to get used to the Godot editor. So what we did was use an animation player. That was simpler than I thought. The process involves telling Godot what you want to animate, go further into animation, do your animation, and tell Godot that you moved it. After that, we moved on to pickups, coins. That part was probably the simplest. First, you import an area 2D. An area 2D is a node that doesn't collide with other node, but it tells when other nodes collide with it. Although it's not really a collide, it's more of an overlap. Then in the code, you tell it to play a nice sound and destroy the coin. Finally, dying is just making a timer node, and after the timer is done, destroy the player. Brackeys went a step further and disabled the colliders through the disabled property, so when you collide with an enemy, the player falls through the bat. The rest of the tutorial is just dedicated to polishing the map design and overall experience. Now I actually want to apply my knowledge to my very own game, so I started thinking of a brilliant, creative, entertaining game idea. I made a ping pong game. So if you thought the first step to making a ping pong game is paddles, you are wrong. The first step is to change the backgrounds, which was in settings conveniently. Then I made paddles, which was also easy because I am big boy developer. The code was exactly what you'd think. I add to the position based on the inputs on the input map. Now this scene is pretty lonely. It's just a paddle, so we need a ball. The ball was pretty easy to make just using this code. But there is no one to play with. We need a bot. All I did was add the ball position and the linear velocity and multiplied that by the delta and put that into a variable called ball future position. And then I take the sign of that ball future position and our current y position, put that into a variable called direction. And finally, I multiply the direction, speed, multiplier, and delta. The multiplier is basically just a value that gets multiplied by the speed, which makes the bot harder or easier by increasing its speed. 1 is easy, 2 is medium, and 3 is hard. So yeah, that's basically it. I know I didn't do anything special in this video. I just wanted to give my opinion on Godot. My opinion on Godot is really positive. It sticks, it's good, it's neat, and it's open source. You can always suggest new features and make features for yourself if you wanted to. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. Godot's GD script is elegant, JavaScript X Python. Its simplistic theme is just fit for game development. So should you try Godot? Yes.